Yeah, it looks like it's working. Nice. Yeah, as Eddie mentioned, it has some challenges. Taking over streams and hoping everything retains. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. So I set the description right. Just some admin. Yeah, it looks more than fine. So QR is there. Yeah, let's go. Nice. Um, well, yeah, we'll continue where we were this morning. So this morning, like early morning, 5 a.m. Most of the, at least Eddie's time was 5 a.m. I started planning and did some work already on adding some new blocks to the layout. The layout is partially automated now, meaning I can send some trains on their way. They'll kind of figure out where they are, and they not crash into each other, even going opposite directions. So I had a small test going with a passing siding, and yeah, let me just reintroduce the concept here and go through it. And that way, when I start working on the layout, you know exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. All right. So let's first look at the schematics. I think it's just a matter of, yeah, plopping it down. So, okay, so this is the layout right now. Just have to reply in chat a little bit here. Make sure all the admin goes right. That is a challenge, by the way. Let me get this done correctly. Yeah, there was no way for me to like hijack it, which is kind of what you want, right? Where it seamlessly goes from one to another. So I copied the description and but it should be good. Okay. Let me just continue on this one. If anything comes up, we'll all right. Yeah, so this is the layout I'm gonna be working on. Let me get rid of this. So it's my office. So it's I attached well, not attached. I put in tables basically, 3 tables, one on each wall. This is basically behind me right now. Like if you look at the webcam, it's behind me. Then this is the part the camera is sitting on or looking at. And this is the kind of newly introduced shallow yard. So what I want to do here is park some trains and then tell my automation to start running them, meaning they'll either just exit their yard if they were, or their siding when they were facing out, or shunt back and continue the loop from where they were pointing to. So basically, some trains back out, make some loops, 1 or 2 or more, whatever their behavior set at. Then when they're done, they park themselves before this switch here, basically, all the way, and then shunt in backwards. It's all restricted speed, so there's no derailments. It's working quite reliably, even manually. So these switches are also automated. They, control which train goes where when backing up or when going back in. Yeah, and trains that go the other way, they shunt out. They end up somewhere here, and then they continue their path. And this switch will basically make sure they're either going towards the yard or continue down the main line. The main line is here, and here's that passing siding. Right here. So, there's a problem with this setup. It's fairly simple. There's a detection block here. It's about this big. It's not very big, and that's the problem. So, what this application will require the trains to do if they want to back out completely, especially when they shunt out of the yard. or inside rather, right? They were. No, it's out of the yard. Yeah, so they were parked on the yard. They shunt out backwards. Then they end up on this block, and they keep blocking the switch. And even if they're not long enough to actually block it, the automation has some safety margins, and it will keep the switch occupied. Just the program doesn't trust it. Yeah, and the train will just be stuck. And there's an alternative, which is to just back up further. But further means going all the way around, backwards, all the way here, backwards, and then until it hits this particular detection block, because that's the first detection block that happens after this one. So it's quite a loop it needs to go. Then if it's in here, the switch will unlock, and it can go back out again. So it will continue on the main line from there on. And the same thing happens with trains that are done with their loop, because they come in from this side essentially, going up, and then they pass the switch and they kind of get stuck here. And then they cannot back out because the switch is locked. The program sometimes just thinks they're in there. And it happens quickly. Like, it doesn't need to be a long train for it to do this. So yeah, we want to solve that. And the way to solve this, and I already draw it in this diagram a little bit, we're going to add another block here. So that's what I'm going to do in the next hour and a half, probably hour. It should be shorter, and then we can run some trains. And we also need to do the software, so that's going to be a fun watch probably. So yeah, I'll deselect everything. So this is what the new block is going to be now, and I need to looking at my streaming program. Let me just get the overview here. It's nice to show what this camera is doing as well. So that's what we're looking at right now. We're looking at a piece of isolated track. Yeah, so that's, and it's not wired in, so that's what we're gonna do. I'll show some of the tools. That was my audio. I'm not gonna break it down next week, this track, but it is temporary. It's an experiment, so I want to change some things around. Not big things, but small things. And one of them is, of course, the connections, the blocks, the connections. Prototype. Not really. I do have a lot of US trains. So as far as prototypes, I look at, mostly interesting industries that I really like how they're set up. So this one, I should have looked it up because I was struggling with it this morning too. Let me look it up real quick, because I can actually find out what prototype this is. I know it's Mojave subdivision. And then I'm looking at the Run 8 maps. There's a site called The Depot. Basically, it's a two-parter. It's a multiplayer server or community, I guess. But they also have a lot of documentation on Run 8. Run 8 is this US-based train simulator. It's very detailed. It's very well done. And it has, it's basically has a lot of real track in there. Let's see. So this is I think the Lone Pine branch, or the Arvin branch. Right, it's the Arvin branch, Southern California. And this is actually, it's Unico Chemical and Bolthouse Farms. Like, that's what this base is. This is what what you're currently looking at. Slightly compressed version, but I really liked how the main line kind of flows around the industry. There's one switch it's a turnout that switched to the main line. It's fine. Yeah, Railroader is amazing. Run 8 is equally amazing. It's a slightly more, how do you say? It's more of a sandbox. Like, Railroader has a very clear, gameplay loop. Run 8 is a little bit more open. So basically, they give you like this huge sandbox, and you can fill it up with people that create safe games. But it's also very cool to just create your own trains, like manifest trains or trains coming off the map. Essentially, you generate them in, and then you split them up in yards, run your locals. It'll keep you busy for days because essentially you're recreating real life operations. Real life is in, I think, early 2000s, to be fair, but yeah, really cool. Um, yeah, so this is a compressed version of one of those industries. Like on the entire layout, I would say this is the most prototypical. I do have a yard that's sort of based on real yards, also US based. I like I like goods, like moving around goods industries. That is not very common here in Europe. Their trains are a lot shorter, and it's more, how do you say, not isolated, but unless you live right across the industries, you don't see a lot of those type of trains. Usually, it's passenger transport here, so it's okay. I mean, I can do passenger transport here, but you know, it's fine. So mostly, I would say mostly US. I do have a German steamer here. I love these things. The black and red, it's so recognizable. But yeah, yeah. So this is going to be. We have to wire in this block, and then look at the software to actually make the software aware of the block. Make sure it's measured. Measuring is again done through the design program. That's why I have that there, so I can quickly set up the distances and make sure that the layout is aware of the block, where the entry is, where the exit is, and then the train should be able to do their automation without going through the entire layout, and that's the goal, at least for today. This program, it's not very intuitive, so we might run into a lot of issues, but I guess that's the fun, right? Just doing it together. Yeah, so I have a bit of a color scheme. So this is a gray wire. I'm going to use that to wire up the block. Then also we have the brown wire. It's kind of the mess, the minus, the ground. I don't know what would be the right electrical term. And we have the red wire. The red wire is actually directly coming from the DCC command station. There is a bus under the table. It looks like this. Actually, I have a new one here. Let me unpack it. This is then actually Märklin because I like their plugging system. So it's a little metal thing. So it's a little metal thing. There you can put a screw there, so you can like screw it to wherever you want, and then you use the plugs like this, and actually, voila. Now, you know, that's how you can wire up. I guess I would say electrical bus. So I have one for the red wire, one for the brown wire. The thing with the detection is right here. For now, I have one detector. It's a Roco detector, also German made. I wonder why. Yeah, I live in the Netherlands, which is right next to Germany. That is the market here. Just easy to get stuff. So this detector will do current sensing, meaning if there's a train on one of these blocks, it will just say it's occupied. Like, it's that easy, honestly. And then looking at the actual wiring here, we're gonna wire in this rail, the rail facing me, the bottom rail from, yeah, let's just call it the bottom rail. Then we'll put another wire on the bottom rail here that is actually the red one, the positive. So that's the actual power from the rest of the layout that is not isolated. And these plugs, I'll show these plugs. They're a little bit strange. So they're again Minitrix based. Basically, how it works is there's a wire connection right here, and then there's this little tab that hits the rail. So basically, you wire from one side, and the power actually goes to the other side. Mildly confusing, but you just clip it on. You can clip it off again very quickly. It's very nice. It's just very convenient if you want to change some stuff. Okay, then the track is already isolated. I did it this morning, so there's an isolated there, just like on the schematic, and then the other isolation is right there. So it's about 76 centimeters. I thought I figured it out in inches. It was like 34 inches. I don't know. Like half in inches, like roughly. I don't know. Freedom units. I'm not very good at them. All right, so yeah, let's first strip this wire. I have a really cool tool, the Stanley Fatmax. Let me show it. It's probably overkill for this purpose, but of all the crimpers, I like this system the best. So you just put it in. Let me center it a little bit for you guys, like that, and then you pull it. And you can kind of guesstimate a little bit. I mean, I can put it right against the tab, and I can actually extend the tab quite a bit. It's probably for heavier gauge or lighter gauge. I'm not sure what the right direction is of that scale, but I just guess a little bit, like right here. I think this is a nice distance. All right, then we twist it, and I'm actually already gonna turn on my soldering iron. I do want to use some soldering, yeah, I do want to get a little bit of solder on there. I don't know what the right word is for that. Just give it some sturdiness, essentially. I'll do it on one side, the side that goes into these clamps here. The other side will go into the connector, and it actually screws down on the wire itself. So let me show one of those connectors. I'm bumping my mic here. Let me see if I can get one of those connectors out. I'm messing with my... No, I cannot get the connector out from here. Let me grab one. Yeah, okay. So this is one of those connectors. So basically, this goes into the detector, eight slots. You just screw wires in. You can put them in quite a bit, and then there's no need to like put some soldering on there. So yeah, let's do that. Let me move my microphone a little bit. Oh, not the microphone, the camera. There we go. We need to wait for it to be in temperature a little bit. Where did I put it on? Oh, that's more than enough. Let's see, the red. Yeah, the red. And let's also take the brown. I'm just going to refer to the colors. Alright. Give it a bit more of a twist. Let's see, what else do we need? No, that's pretty much it. I did want to drill down a little bit. So there's this table is basically not finished right. You can see some texture here, but basically I need to cover it with texture. That's about as much as scenery as I like to do usually. So I'm gonna probably drill a hole right here and just get the wires going through the hole. Otherwise they kind of are all over the layout. It's quite a bit from here and quite a bit from there. Not that it's messy, but you might also pull it by accident. So it's better, even if it's temporary, better to organize it a little bit with some drilling. So I have a few drill bits here. I have a smaller one. I'm gonna try it with the small one first. Otherwise I'll just create a big hole. It's 3 wires, it should go through a small one, no problem. Alright, we have enough temperature. Also got a helping hand, just in case. So, yeah. My soldering iron is a bit of a work in progress. It's been oxidized a little bit, and I have no idea where to get new soldering tips. It's not a standard system, it's some kind of proprietary system. I know where I bought it, but so I need to. It's probably a bit of a struggle, but we'll see. Maybe it's really quickly. No, it actually goes quite smooth. It's not burny part of that wire. This one just a little bit. There's a bit of a ball here, so I'm gonna See if I can get rid of it. Come on. Yeah, this is the oxidation. There's no heat coming through. Or at least not enough. How about this? Then I probably need to... Oh, no, it's coming. I was about to say maybe get some flux and try to move it. But yeah, it's coming off. Okay, that's more than enough. Also needs to go through a hole, and if the hole is small, with all that solder on it, that might be a problem. Alright, let's watch the environment, turn it off. Alright. Also, I might burn my fingers, so it's good to turn it off while I'm working here. It's a bit of a tight space with this camera being here. Let's put this camera back. I have a smartphone sitting on a kind of a clamp. So it is kind of stable and movable, or articulatable. I don't know what the right word is here. Alright, yeah, this looks good. Alright, so we have the 3 wires we need to connect. And the 3 clamps sitting there. So far so good. I'll secure my mic a little bit, so there we go. Okay. Yeah, I would say drill. I think that's easiest from here. Drill. Let's see, I want to put it probably about here, I would say. Makes the most sense. Because some of the wires do need to feed through under the track. But it can only go through a couple of places. This should be enough. So, let's try a small hole first. This might be very annoying. Some vacuum cleaner. There we go. Let's feed the wires through. I'm doing this blindly, that might be a mistake. That's one. That's the gray detector wire. Yeah, there we go. That's the brown, yeah, what do we call it? Mass wire, ground. And then number 3 is the actual DCC power. Yes. I'm gonna say this hole is barely big enough. I feel it's been going through, but I think I just need to pull it out. pliers might not be. Oh, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Amazing. All right. Going away from my mic a little bit, so I'm going to speak a little bit louder. So red goes through the middle track. My turnouts are not smart. Smart as in, it doesn't matter how they're set, they're going to conduct power to both sides. So that shouldn't be a problem. Then this is on the top rail, so that's going to reach the entire layout from here. There we go. I'm gonna wiggle, actually I'm gonna take a little bit of bending just so they're kind of secure in there. Okay. Yeah, okay. There we go. And finally the detector, so it goes under the track, like so. I'm like obscuring most of it with my hands probably, but okay, not too far. Then we take some pliers. Not super, yeah, okay. I have to be careful when pulling this. Might not be super secure. Let's see. My fancy camera can zoom in a little bit here. Hey, good morning, Andy. Just to summarize, I'm setting up a detection block on this semi-automated layout. So I'm kind of rewiring, making sure that this track is both isolated and I'm using current sensing detection, meaning that if a train comes into the block, doesn't matter which train it is, it will start to draw current just by being there because it's DCC. And then this will report that this block is occupied. So with software you can then proceed to do some minor automation, some big automation. I'm kind of in the middle. I want to automate some trains just to create a lively layout while I'm operating others. So I can do some shunting or some actual running around as well. But the automation makes sure that none of the trains can crash. Unintentionally, that is. And to make sure that, the layout looks alive or more alive, which is just fun. So it's not like I'm gonna just sit behind the computer and just press a few buttons and that's it. I do want to have something somewhere in the middle. All right. This is not super flat, so the track is kind of bulging up a little bit. I think over time this will be fine. Okay. The red wire, where is it? Nope, nope. Yes. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just has to work. Yeah, there we go. I think this looks great for now. My layout is kind of, I explained this before, kind of not temporary. First of all, I don't really do a lot with scenery, so it's not going to be a lot more than this. Flat surface, maybe some buildings. But what I'm mostly focused on is that I can make small tweaks. And, moving around some wires, that's a small tweak to get it to work better for me. Maybe this entire industrial complex will at some point disappear. I like to change things just to have something to work on. Okay. So I'm now trying to bring back some of the geometry here, because this looks like, I don't know, a little bit messy, to be honest. Let me zoom out a little bit, see what I mean. A little bit like this. So this is a track system, meaning that I use pieces of track that are part of a geometry. So without too much hassle, I should be able to kind of get it exactly as I designed it. So I have like small pieces, big pieces, but in the end, there's no need for cutting, or a lot of cutting anyway. And I can create small temporary pieces or sections or whatever, and it will still look okay. And it will at least be the same as the design, because the design helps me measure all the track lengths, and that's important because I'm using positional driving. So it means when a train comes into a block with a certain speed, the application kind of keeps track of the speed and will know, like on a decent accuracy, where the train is inside the block, which will really help with stopping on time, or maybe even fitting 2 trains in one block. Like, it can be done in theory, which is pretty cool. I'm not doing too much with that because these blocks aren't very big. But if they're bigger, you can start doing things like that. So it's just one detection per block. Okay, I think that concludes. Oh, there's one important part. This detection wire is not connected to anything right now. There we go. It's loose. I'm gonna have to connect that up, but that should be a quick job. So we're gonna pan to the detector. Let me see if I can get it a little bit. There we go. Like this, then like that. Now you can also see the train just being stuck there. So that the train is kind of stuck because the application thinks the back of the train is on a switch and it cannot throw the switch. So what this train wants to do is back into a yard, but because it's on the switch, or at least the application has some safety margins, it has to go a little bit further. So that's why this extra block is there, so it can go a little bit further and not go in almost through the entire layout just to back off into a yard. This is like the quirks of automation. If the application doesn't have the information, it just takes safety margins, which is nice. I mean, crashing trains is not great either. All right. Let me zoom in a little bit, just so you can see that detector a little bit better. It's Roco, which I believe is also Fleischmann, also another well-known N-scale brand. Roco themselves do really HO mostly. Their track system is quite nice, Roco line, for HO. Like I see it's pretty commonly used on big layouts here. It both has some geometry, they have some concrete ties, basically what you expect of a modern system. I think it's still a little bit of a larger code, just because of the legacy of wheels here. So I think you're usually looking at code, I don't know what's the right one, like 80 or maybe even one size smaller. It's not a really big thing here to do essentially lower codes. Like, you don't see 60 or lower here, I think. But yeah. All right, let's wire this in real quick. Should be easy if I see a screwdriver. There we go. Now let's do it without disturbing the camera too much. Wait, is there even a plug in there? No, there isn't. That's why I couldn't pull it out. Wow. The amount of distraction. All right. We're gonna pan back out a little bit. And I'll do it right here. So this is from a previous project. So I'm gonna remove them all. So essentially you screw in these gates here. You open up the gates. That will allow you to get a wire in. Screw it back down. Let's see, how do I align this? Like this, right? Oh no, like this. Okay. So I'm gonna put it in the first one. This will be channel 9 because it's a 16 channel detector. The first 8 are already taken. And I'm just gonna have to wire in number 9. Alright, this is that detector wire. Still with one side not used. Put it in. Actually, I like this is something I would recommend if you have these kind of connectors. Just take the wire and just do it like this a little bit. Yeah, it takes a little bit of filling, but like if you have a little bit, like it can hit the end of the detector, but it also can touch quite a bit of the terminal, the sides of the terminal. Especially if you have a screw down, kind of helps with contact. Voila. And we'll leave the other ones open, so next time it will be an easy install because I can just shove a wire in and yeah, let me show you. Finally this one, yeah, it's already open quite a bit. Yeah, all right. Back to the detector. There we go. And installed? I think so. Yeah, looks installed. All right. Let's turn on, actually before we turn on, let's do a little bit of a safety step. Oh yeah, so old school detection, it usually works, it could be a real driving detection system. So that just means, especially if it's an older layout, that the blocks are actually powered for DC, for instance. And there might be some software involved that simply turns on blocks consecutively. So then it's actually the other way around. The blocks determine how the train drives. So it's not really detection in the sense that if a train enters, the block was turned on, so it already knows it's there. But it might be an actual old school detection. Yeah, it depends on how your software is working and if you have the ability to do all that hardware. I know of some clubs that do both types of detection these days. Yeah, especially with DCC, the newer type of, well, not newer type, but I would say the current sensing type or the what is the S88 system using? It's the opposite of current. It's I think it's some kind of ground detection. Not 100% sure how that works electrically, but yeah, pretty cool. You can really scale up your layout with some kind of detection system. And again, with the hybrid driving, you know, both automated and manual, it's really cool. Like, it's a really cool experience. All right, I think that's all hooked up. Yeah, safety step. Okay, so safety, I would say, is in a multimeter. So let me grab one, and we're just going to see if the isolation actually works before we turn everything on. While the command stations, especially modern ones, they are fine with some kind of shorts. They will turn off quickly. We can still check. So let me zoom out the camera a little bit. This UI is not the greatest. Okay, there we go. Nice. Yeah, so multimeter. I would say just put it in diode mode, like here. And then if we take, what are these, probes? Yeah, probes. If we hit them, you can see that the number goes down. So if they're not if they're isolated, numbers should stay at 1. So let's touch this side of the track. It goes beyond 1. Okay, interesting. Oh, I don't know what I'm. Hold on, what am I doing wrong here? That's part of checking, I guess. It goes up. That's so interesting. Okay, well, then there might actually be a short. Oh, that's just my mic. Oh, that might actually be me not knowing how to use dive mode. Oh no, we're good. Okay. Interesting. So it's not a short, but okay, well, let's see. My command station is here. We can show you the Z21. Let's turn it on. Light stays blue. That's a good sign. No shorts, no immediate shorts anyway. All right, now let's do some current sensing. Yeah, let me show it like this. So, all right, you can see that. Let me zoom in a little bit, or put wires out of the way actually, like this. I'll clean this up later. He says. Zoom in. There we go. So we have a status light and we have a detect light. So 2 lights. Let's look at this train while it's going in. Switch is set correctly. Yeah. It's essentially a mainline switch on both sides. They're not the smoothest turnouts. Okay. I'm gonna use this one. It's a Wi-Fi remote. And we'll know when it's connected when we have this little icon going. There we go, it has connection. It's just like my command station, it's connected to my home network through Ethernet, this one through wireless, so they're bridged, which makes this really convenient. All I need is some kind of connection to the home router and it will work fine. Let's see, which train is this? This UI is not the greatest, but once you know where the trains are in your index, it should be fine. Norfolk Southern, great. Okay, let's see what happens. Was this the right direction? I have to say, it isn't Atlas, it might not work that well. Or it's stuck by automation, let me check. Okay. Oh, it's still booting up. Wait, did it short? No, it didn't short out, okay. But the detection light is gone. All right, let me do it. Ah, there we go. Okay. This train does not want to move though. Okay, no problem. I'm gonna bump it a little bit. Not a beep. Interesting. The plot thickens. What's going on here? Okay, let's move the train forward a little bit. Wow, it does not want to move. Interesting. Well, we're here along for the debugging ride. Let's see. Do I have everything wired in correctly? I do not. I have the ground wire and the detection wire switched. I now see it. So I fell into the same trap I already explained. So the clips, they're actually on the other side of where they're applied. So while this wire is correct, the ground wire, the brown wire, it's on this side of the clip, which actually means it touches the bottom rail, which should have been the detection wire. So I'll have to swap these around. Gonna take a quick look at the time, an hour. Ah, that's nothing. I'm amazed this is how much you can do in an hour. Can I show this somehow where you would actually see it happening? See, they're switched. So that means the detection actually goes in here and it will touch the other rail. See, the clip is on the other side right here. It is a bit confusing. Pull the gray wire back in. There we go. And the brown wire we gonna kind of twist around like this. All right, that looks okay. All right, let's zoom back out, watch this train hopefully. There we go. I'm gonna check power. That does explain why my multimeter didn't exactly show the right values. But also not as short, so it was somewhere in the middle. Okay. If it's a short, you debug directly. All right, let's see. There we go. Okay, before it hits the detection block, I'm actually gonna go like this. And actually let me put a visual marker on that block just to show you where it is. Right there. There's that little little tab. It's a real connection, but made from plastic. Oh, other way. So you can watch the detect blink if it all works fine. There we go. That was a blink. Yeah. And it's actually, you can see the individual wheels triggering detections. If your train goes slow enough, that will create a detection message per wheel. So it's the first wheel, blink, second wheel, or it's the The third axle, I guess, because only 2 axles are conducting. There we go. Those were the last 2 wheels, or 2 axles rather. Okay, let's park it back. All right, we can see that working. Let's back it up all the way to the switch. There we go. Now it's in the previous block. Hopefully it's still on the power. Yeah, so the other nice thing about this system is if your train keeps running, it means your block is connected properly, because it will now get power from the detector. Because the detector is not only current sensing, it's also in essence your bus, your power bus for the blocks that are connected to it. All right. All right, let's keep it there. Turn off this thing. It eats batteries when it's on. Not rechargeable batteries, unfortunately. All right, now we're gonna do some movie magic, I guess. We're gonna zoom this out quite a bit. I'm gonna put it on the yard. That's right here. There we go. So now we can see the yard. We can see a large part of the main line and a siding. There's a siding there too. All right, I'm gonna take this camera and make it a little bit smaller, like this. I'm gonna put it in the most useless corner. That would be about here. Then I'm going to enable my display. I'm sorry in advance for what's gonna happen now, because you're gonna see a lot of the same thing. Oh, it's not that bad, the effect. All right, and I'm gonna go to iTrain. So this is the application I use for automation. So the detected part of the layout, like before I installed the block, it's here. So what we have here, I'm gonna see if it looks visually like you would expect. I think it does, right? You can see. Oh wait, it's overlaying the camera here. So I'm gonna move the camera up a little bit, like this. Yeah, this should. All right. This should now show basically a live feed of the layout. It's a little bit small, but I think it will get the message across. Yeah. All right. So we have the siding here, which is a passing siding. It's the main line goes straight. Then the siding is at the bottom, just as you can see on the feed. Then the yard, it has 3 tracks. I call it shallow yard. It's kind of like a parking spot for automation. So once a train is not driving on the main line or any of the associated tracks, it's parked on that yard. And then there's the main line going from east to west. So essentially, you're looking at it from the same angle. It's because my desk is in the middle. I'm like facing that part of the layout, so that's how it's drawn. It's also a switchboard, so I can switch my my sidings right here. And you can see that because I moved the train forward manually, it already released the switch. So what I can actually do is take this train, which is visually represented as with its right photo, its right thumbnail. I took photos of all my trains and I put them on this application. I can literally tell this application like not route, but shunt your way into this yard. There you go. So it will set all the switches and hopefully it will drive backwards, which you should be able to see on the feed. And let's just watch how it's doing it. hopefully it will stop at the end, which it does. Okay. So if I'm gonna look at my camera a little bit. Yeah, I think you can see it like this, right? It's parked into that siding. And there's 2 other trains there as well. There's a, let me zoom in just a little bit. See if I can do it without breaking anything here. Oh, that's too much. Overdoing it. That mount is now basically kind of stuck. Let's see. There we go. So there's a NW2 switcher, a what looks to be an SD70. Yeah, it's an SD70, I think. And that SD60M. Yeah, pretty cool. So those are 2 trains. Now we're gonna have to make this application aware of this extra block. I'm gonna call it block 1, and I'll show you why if I look at the switchboard. Right now we have mainline 1, mainline 2, then mainline 3 and the siding, and mainline 4. And mainline 4 connects back up to mainline 1, so it becomes a loop. We wanna probably add the block on this side, because again, if this is the direction I'm looking at, it just makes sense. So we're gonna take this entire field, if I'm correct. Yeah, hopefully we can just shift it somehow. No, I think we have to copy paste it. Okay, let's cut it, put it back in. We take this part, move it there. All right, might as well have a small small course on iTrain track design. So any block exists. It's comprised of 3 parts. There's at least one detector. There's the block symbol itself, and there's a directional symbol. And the directional symbol, it's iTrain, exactly. This directional symbol kind of indicates what the preferred direction is of any block. Sometimes blocks are restricted to one direction only. Like if you have a passing siding that can only be used from one side. Most blocks are kind of bidirectional. On my layout, there certainly are, because you can both shunt into the yard, for instance, and move back out, but also the main line can both be going eastwards or westwards, which is why this passing siding is here. So that's awesome. So basically any train can decide to, the main line again is preferred. Also that setup in this setup. Let me double click and show you what I mean. So there's a, actually that needs to be the block in front of it. iTrain is both confusing and somewhat intuitive. Yeah, so there's a preference to take the main block or the next main block. But as an alternative, they can go into the siding. And you can manually route trains into sidings as well. Like if you really want a train to be in the siding, because there might be an industry in the future. You want it to wait or spot or something. But yeah, for now, let's create a new block. So I usually take one piece of rail as a margin. So we put it in right there. Then the directional, which is here, yeah. Let's rotate a little bit. Then another piece. The reason you put in some margin is because once a train enters a block. Oh yeah, 3 feedbacks, yeah. Oh yeah. If you use positional driving, one feedback is more than enough. But you need to calibrate your trains. That's a downside. Okay, so let's put in the block itself. This one needs to be pointed in the right way too. So there's a previous and a next direction. The next direction is indicated by the 2 dots. Another piece of track. Then the feedback. There we go. And then finally another piece of track. Oh yeah, so why do you want it this wide, even though it's a small piece of feedback? Because once the train enters it, the train label will have to fit inside the the block. It doesn't need to fit, but it just looks visually better, so it doesn't overlap other blocks or part of the layout you think are important. Okay, then we group it. So we press G, so it will go into grouping mode. Essentially, you use that and G to add it to the group, and then you press G again to exit group mode. And now, when I double click this, it has created the block as a board item. So this is one coherent thing, one coherent block item. Next up, we take the feedback. So we double click the feedback, we give it its name. I call it feedback 9 because it's address 9. There we go. Yeah. And we call it a occupancy. And there's a length. That length we need to figure out inside my program. So the isolation runs from this to this. I already selected it. And it comes down to 72 centimeters, which is the only unit I know how to use. I do not know any other systems other than the metric. And I'm sorry for that. All right, 72 centimeters. We confirm. So now this is turned into the appropriate symbol. Then we go to the block and it already figured out its own length because of that one detector. We're gonna call it free track and we're gonna call it main 1. But we're gonna give it a little bit of a symbol because we still need to rename the other ones. Okay, I think this is all good. We're gonna give it a stop position just in case. So that I usually choose minus. Minus means it just takes the end and just moves back a few centimeters. And a break position of 30 centimeters before. I like 30 centimeters because otherwise the train will slow down pretty much the moment it enters the block. And we want to keep that train going for a little bit. Most of them already don't go that fast, but then it kind of seems to more naturally brake. And of course it expects a brake, so it already goes slow. Okay, so right now it kind of automatically filled everything we needed to fill in. The problem is this is not accurate. So the block, it looks visually and also right now for real that it connects directly to the block previously in the block ahead. But in the design program, we can see that it's not the case. So while one block exit or stops here, the next one only starts there. So there's a piece of track still, yeah, not registered in the program. Same thing here. We previously used this block's end and then extended its length all the way to here. So also that needs to be changed. But let's wait until we renamed everything. So this is now the new M1. So I'm gonna actually go back. Let's start at M4. Let's call it M5. Then this one will become the new M4, like so. This will be M3. This will be now M2. And finally, the new block can be actually called M1. So, there we go. So that's the naming set up correctly. Let's give it a save. So now we can see the changes here. Then, what would be the next step? We check if it's still correctly set to next and previous. Yeah, everything is automatically updated here. So we don't need to go in and change that. Same thing for M5, it should connect to M4 through a switch. And yeah, and here it connects directly to M2, which is not correct actually. It should be M1, there we go. And M1 should connect to M5 on the previous direction. And that is correct. Okay, so yeah, this is iTrain. It's very peculiar in a way. It's just these little quirky things. You need to check everything. If you don't, it becomes such a mess to debug. I don't like this kind of automation for that reason. It can be a little bit more intuitive, I have to say. But yeah, it's because no one's layout is the same. All right. yeah, let's figure out the lengths. Okay, so we go back to the design program. And essentially what we want to do is first reduce the length of the previous block, which is now M5. So I'm gonna actually make sure my labels are correct here. So that is M5. This is M4. Then I'm gonna paste in mainline 3. Like so. This is now mainline 1. No, actually this was 2, of course. The curve is now 2. And this is mainline 1. So that makes it a little bit easier. There's some sync between the two applications, so that you can read the same information in 2 different contacts. Yeah, okay, so let's have a look at block 5. Or not, rather block mainline 5. So I'm gonna first check if the length of the block is still accurate. Rather the detection. So it's 78 centimeters. Yeah, that's accurate. Okay, so the actually detected part is 78, and then I'm gonna extend my measurement all the way to the start of the next block. And I'm gonna do it like this because I think my track runs clockwise. So, you know, it's just for consistency's sake, I guess. So we're gonna run it up to the next block and take a little note of its length, which is 310 centimeters. So we take the block and extend it to 310. Autofill it. And now we have to be a little bit careful here. So the detection is at the start of the block. So yeah, this is correct. So at start, it's at 0. So this is the feedback length or position of the feedback. So the length is indeed 78. It starts at 0 centimeter and it ends at 78 centimeter. The block itself extends all the way to 310 centimeters. So, you know, combined with the positional driving, it will still know based on calibrated speed and of course the actual speed setting where the train is without it being detected. So this makes sure there are safety margins. Okay. Let's do the same for the new block. Let's go back to the editor. So that's block M1, mainline 1. So you can see it's still the same length as the detector. So what we're going to do is actually go over to this application. Let's do a quick double check. 72 centimeters. Yeah, okay, so that's correct. Now we're going to extend it all the way to the next block, which is not a lot. But in actuality, it's 111 centimeters. So we'll take that, enter it, and then autofill it. Yes, and this is the same. So the start of the block actually is at 0 centimeters. It runs the feedback, the feedback runs to 72 centimeters. And then there's a small piece of block that's undetected. And it will actually also show at what part, when the train comes in from the other side, where the detection starts. And it's really an on-off thing. Like it will detect and then, yeah, it will know that that block is occupied. I think that's it. Like I'm optimistic, that's it actually. But now we test. So I will take the camera and put it towards this block so we can actually see what's happening here. I'm going to try to force it a little bit and then zoom out. Oh, I can zoom out more, okay. Well, Yeah, basically this is the part we want to see. We're gonna do it with this combined view, so we can see what's happening. All right, let's take again this particular train because it's facing with its nose in the right way. So it just makes more sense. Oh, actually, one last setting I forgot, which is the bidirectional setting. So, and actually let's remove that it's electrified. So directions should be bidirectional. And now this symbol will turn solid. So basically the track can be used to go either way. Which is true because it's just one main line. Okay. So now we can drag this train to the new block, like so. Route not possible from this position. Something is not set up correctly. Let me do a quick diagnosis. This is fine. Okay, yeah, that's yeah, that's a quirky iTrain thing. The train was not set to the correct direction. Like it can do a lot, but not turn around a train. No, still messing up. Okay. This is a very dreaded message for iTrain users. Route not possible from this position. Yeah, it happens all the time. And the application says absolutely nothing about why. It's awful. It's very unintuitive in a way. All right. So now we need to find the problem. So the most obvious one is that the blocks are incorrect. And they are, right? Because M2 should be M5. Okay, it's now M1. This is correct. So it was the same problem as the previous block, which I did spot, but then I didn't spot this one. So yeah, that's how you can struggle for hours. Again, let's route. There we go. So now it reserves. And I see the train driving already. You will see it momentarily. So the idea is that it will stop before the switch at the end. So on the left, the east side of this little industrial area. So the train should be coming in now. There we go. And let's watch it break on time, hopefully. Ah, perfect. It's not exactly 5 centimeters. It's more like 3 or 4. But if you look at how the wheels are set up, like they're not exactly where the front of the train is. It's absolutely spot on. Yeah, great. Let's actually check the previous block still. So I'm gonna shunt it backwards. Oh, it will shunt. Oh, it will safety shunt. So it actually takes 2 blocks now because it thinks it's too long. Which is true like by centimeters, but still, I can appreciate the accuracy. Let me show you what's up. So it should probably, it doesn't actually stop here. Okay, that's fine. So it will go on to the next block and stop at the end. Yeah, so so this is the problem with this short block. Oh, it actually goes forward again. Cool. Okay, well, I mean, whatever it needs to do. Yeah, it stops at the correct spot, but it will keep the switch occupied. So this is the same problem as I had before, but now I have a solution because now there's an extra block so the train can actually drive out. That's awesome. Okay. Let's see if it can stop in the new M5 block, which was previously M4. So I'm gonna actually just disconnect. Just show you and follow it. All right. This might be a small problem with the audio. So it should stop in front of the siding. Siding is nice. It has a bit of safety margin, a bit too much in my opinion. Okay. Now let's put it back into the yard. I have to choose shunt probably. Oh, it's gonna back off, I think. It's not gonna be that smart about it. Kind of makes sense, right, to do it in one maneuver instead of two, because two would be to drive forward until it can move backward again. It chooses to do it in one move, which is shunting, which is slower. This is where it should start detecting it, so it will light up. There we go. And as you can see, the application, by tracking block to block, it knows which train is where, just because it's the only logical conclusion. If no other train is there, then this train must be there. And it does it well. This allows for complex movement. There we go, and it should be parking up now. Just a reminder, I keep forgetting that I'm live streaming as part of the Train-A-Thon. It's for a good cause. Children's Hospital, there's a QR code right on the screen. If you're able, you can donate. All right. So let's make this work like I would want it to work, which is that it automatically exits and enters that yard without getting stuck on that track. So let's see how we can visualize this properly. So I'm gonna put the camera back in the yard again. Like that. I can imagine it's a bit small, so let me increase it just a little bit. All right. So we're gonna use a route for this, a train route, I believe. Yeah. So I defined two routes for this small piece of automation: an eastbound route and a westbound route. The eastbound route makes sense for that one train facing this way. But the other two are facing the other way. That's because they have the locomotive on the other side. I cannot do this kind of uncoupling, going around, couple up again, automated. That is something with N scale it would be quite difficult. With HO, it's quite possible because, these, especially I know from some of these German companies, they make decouplers, Telex coupling, they call them. They, decouple automatically, move forward a little bit. You can put all these actions into iTrain, essentially creating like small applications, small programs involving these kind of actions like decouple, go forward, decouple, take this route, couple up again. You're now this length. This is way beyond what I want to do. And it's also probably not possible with N scale. I think if you really wanted to, it should be possible, right? But the thing with this is that while switches, that are automated, you can kind of rely on them most of the time. Like sometimes they don't switch, just replace them and it will work again. But with couplers and especially coupling, it's it's not as trustworthy as I think it should be for this kind of automation on this scale. But yeah, I mean, if it's your thing, then go for it. Yeah. So going back to route, so we have the shadow yard right here. So we assign this to K110. This is actually something I tried to do prototypically. The code of the train, it's like a real number. It's a unit train. It has some call. Like they would call them K trains. I don't know. Just something I found online. All right. Let's assign the route. Let's see if it works. So it's going to reserve a quite large portion of the layout for this. It probably needs to reserve more because it might deadlock if trains are allowed to leave the siding. I think this is good for now. But what I want to see is if it is able to back into the yard again, because it has this assignment for it. I didn't reassess the things yet, so this needs to be M1 actually. Let me set that up. Yeah, M1. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. The train is still driving. Like you can see it on the screen where it's being detected and where it's reserving actions. So I'm gonna have to restart a route. I made a small change, which is it should go to block M1, not M2, because M2 was too short. So I probably have to drive it forward manually just for a little bit. So I'm gonna do that in a bit. I should be able to see the train, right? Again. Yeah. There's a small waiting action here. And then it will go forward. Yeah, now the old problem is back. It's solved by now because I added this additional detection loop or feedback. So what I need to do now to solve it is basically just coax the train a little bit. So I'm going to move it forward by hand a little bit, and now it will free up the switch at some point. There we go. Now I release it, and the train will finish the route. So I'm going to update the route again. I'm going to eliminate some of the waiting time. It doesn't need to stand still for 10 seconds just to back off. Maybe it does, I don't know. But for our purpose right now, we can just minimize the waiting time here. So that is this waiting time right here. I already instituted the waiting time here. This is again where iTrain is not that intuitive. If you don't give it a waiting time, it will take a possibly shorter route because it doesn't need to stand still in M3. So based on this route, it will probably end up not even going a loop. It will just go directly to M1 and go right back into the yard. So with that waiting time, I force it to at least take a full round because it needs to wait in M3. So just to, if I move my mouse, I can visualize. So if M3 wouldn't be here or wouldn't have a waiting time, it would probably go like this and then go right back in again. Because, why go all the way around to go over M3 while you can just, skip M3 altogether? That is the logic of iTrain. It's not super intuitive. By giving it a waiting time, it needs to go out and actually take the full loop because it's not allowed to go backwards in this one. Once it's taken the full loop, it goes past the switch enough to actually be able to free that switch up and then loop back again. So let's see if that works. So far so good. It exits the yard. So you can follow on the screen probably. I'm not sure why it takes the siding though. Ah, because it is a preferred direction from west to east. Yeah, I can update that to be honest. It doesn't have to take that siding coming from west going to east. Actually, it's cut off here. That's a little bit ugly. Let me fix that. Ah, it's all the way out in the screen. Let's add one more row. It's like an Excel sheet almost. Okay. And fit it. There we go. All right. We're gonna see it arrive into block M3. It's done waiting. It's now gonna go to block M1. So it's gonna go past that short block into the second essentially short block. And that will free up this switch right here. And with that switch freed up, it can switch to the yard and finish its route. So let's see, is it out the camera? I think so, right? Yeah. So I see it. I will describe it. I see it coming in here. It still goes all the way, which is, I guess, fine. But now it will not go all the way around the layout, so it will just enter this industrial yard and then back up. Hopefully it will back up. Why is it not doing it? It's stuck. I'm not sure why. Ah, it actually doesn't work. Yeah, okay, nice. iTrain in a nutshell. Good question. Why is it not working? You can see the train is not moving. So it's actually iTrain making a decision not to move backwards. It still is locked. That is so strange. Okay. Well, it's locked because it has a route. It's not locked because it was occupied for some reason, because it did switch right away. But now we need to figure out why it doesn't allow the train back in. It has a route. So yeah, I'm debugging here. This is unfortunately iTrain. It's sometimes really frustrating why things don't work like you would expect. So let me look at direction M1. That's correct. Yeah, this is all correct. All right, we have bidirectional here. Bidirectional here as well. Previous is set up correctly. Next is set up to M2. It's preferred. I might have to tell it to shunt in occupied blocks. But it's not occupied, so that's not the problem, right? It's not occupied in any way, no. It just doesn't want to complete its maneuver. If I coax it a little bit. No, it just stops driving. It's so strange. And now it will start driving. So again, I need to coax it. So now it will actually keep driving and go backwards. What could it be? So I explicitly tell it to go to M1. It has a shunt permission. Let me give it an enter occupied block. It shouldn't have to, right? It has some functions here. Yeah, it has some functions here. Let me remove those functions. That might have interfered. with the route. Okay. So previously I tried to experiment with actions where under certain conditions you can make it do extra things. So it like enters a block and then it has a waiting time, and in that waiting time you can make it do additional shunting or some sound or some light action. And I was hoping that I could shunt it just a few centimeters away from that switch. But it wouldn't do it. There's this is also not really documented why it wouldn't do these actions under certain conditions. Like the action itself described, but it doesn't really say anything about why it would work in some cases, not in other cases. It just isn't documented. All right, you can see it on the screen. So it reserves now the final 2 blocks for a shunt, for an actual shunt, which I don't think it needs to do with this new setup, but we'll let it go. I think it's still allowed to go like 40 kilometers per hour, which is more than prototypical. Alright, so now it enters this final 2 blocks. We should see the switch unlock and switch. Yeah, there we go. This was the entire goal of adding that extra block. Alright, now it's able to complete. Will it actually move? Okay, it moves. Here it comes. There we go. All right, it's parked up. Now let's look at the westward route, see if what I need to update. So with westward routes, it works a little bit differently. The trains, in this case, these 2 bottom trains, I both want them assigned the westward route. They need to basically shunt out of the yard. They need to go backwards. They need to do this slowly. They might have some cars attached. I want them slowly out. And then they need to go backwards far enough so that switch can be thrown. And then they can move forward, make 1 or 2 or 3 loops, whatever it's set up to do. And then when it parks up again, it simply, this is the easy part. It just enters one of the tracks again once they're free. So that's what we're trying to do for westward, which is, we're going to see whether my new block detection works in the first steps, because it just needs to be able to back out far enough. So let's try to do this. So there's some steps left here from my previous experiments. Let me just get rid of most of it, I guess. So the first part is the shadow yard. That is correct. Then we enter a step to go to M1, I guess. Like this. And we're gonna give it a 100% chance to wait. And we'll wait it for 1 second. So with that 1 second, it's enough to instruct the train to actually go to M1. Like this is you need to go here because you need to wait here. And this is again iTrain logic. Once you figure this out, all these weird unintuitive things don't start to happen anymore. Now I think with this setup, I should already be able. Right, we need one more step. We need the block after the yard to be targeted. So we'll just try it. It's Probably a bad idea to just put in M3, but it might work fine. All right, so again, shadow yard. M1, M3, shadow yard. So it returns back into shadow yard, and that's where it waits for however many seconds or minutes we want. I'm probably gonna increase this a lot. Like I'm gonna put this like probably in the minute range, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So it will just, it will not continuously go in, go out, make its loop, go in, go out. I want it to have some kind of waiting time, so I can first of all try to put in more trains than this 3. Because we have the passing siding here, so it should be able to support 4. That's the experiment, I guess. Like in my head, it should work, but I'm not sure if it'll actually work. And then, we're gonna see some traffic on the main line. So while I'm doing some shunting or whatever, or I'm just sitting here watching trains, it will kind of look lively, but not, weird, like overly engaging. All right. Let's just give it a try. Let's see what happens. So we're gonna assign this route to the the Union Pacific SD70 ACE. It looks like, because it has this big flaring. But I can check that because I put it in. I think, yeah, there we go. SD70. We're gonna do one more thing, which is fun about automation. We're gonna tell it to honk its air horn. So in the shadow yard, if it departs, I want it to use a train function, specifically the air horn, signal horn it should be. So we're gonna pause it for, let's say, 0.2 seconds. And because it goes backwards, I think the convention is to do it twice. To go like wonk wonk. We're gonna see if this sounds fine. 0.5 seconds, 0.2, 0.2. It probably needs to be 0.8 to sound nice. So we have like 0.2, 0.6 pause. Actually, let's make it 0.6 just to. Okay. So yeah, two horns. You kind of need to fiddle with this. Sometimes the DCC protocol itself is not suitable to do this kind of things, but we'll see. Like worst case, you put in the backward sound as a sample and then play that sample just when leaving. That would absolutely fix the timing issues. But for now, we'll see how it works. The only thing is, I don't think the mic will catch this sound, but we can try. Okay, we need to go to the train. We need to go to its routes and enable the westbound route, like this. So now I can select it and then play it. Route not possible from this position. Yeah, that sounds familiar. So the typical iTrain drama. Is there something I forgot? There's a shunting here. It is pointed in the right direction. It might need a direction instructions, maybe. Okay, previous. This one is next. Why does it have problem with me? Okay, this it might just be a matter of turning it around. Let me see. And play. No, that's not working. Interesting. Yeah, okay. Shunted? Indeed. Okay, that was the problem. Well, it beeped once, so yeah, there's a protocol issue. Just need to give it more space. All right, we can see it backing up. Yeah, at some point we can maybe make routes for both long train and short trains, so they can decide to go forward a little bit faster, but this is fine. Alright, so you can see the precision measurements here. Train cannot continue. Okay, I think this has to do with the direction of the train. So I need it to probably flip forward. So that is here. Let me see if this will work. So we did a shunt, and we're gonna do a direction change forward. Yeah, okay, now it's set up incorrectly. Okay, let's manually back this thing up into the yard. This makes routing a little bit, or developing new routes a little bit slow, because sometimes the train just has to be at the start of the route. So we're gonna put it back into the start of the route now. All right. Let's see if it now will complete at least the shunting maneuver. All right. So it will go past the second block into the new block at the beginning of the session, just for people watching, not from the beginning. I added another detection block to the layout, and I'm now integrating that with within the program. Train cannot continue, so it still has this problem. So interesting. Okay. Let's see, is there something I forgot? So we have the shunt going, and in the shunt we change direction to forward, so that should be all good. Let's give it maybe more waiting time. I don't know. Yeah, honestly, it should be able to find directional changes fine. This just requires some debugging. It's one of those things where when you find out what it was like, oh yeah. That's iTrain in a nutshell. It's a great program, by the way. I'm not being negative about it. It is what it is. The reason is mostly it's very flexible, therefore not very intuitive sometimes, because multiple things kind of interact with each other. But it's just because there's so many varieties of layouts people have, and what kind of train lengths and even detection systems are different. So it's basically the whole program is like a best guess of what would work well for everyone. Okay, let's try this route again. The interesting part is it shunts without direction changes. So well, not without direction changes. I think that's the whole problem, that it shunts backwards and then stays backwards for some reason. Like it cannot go to the next stop, and then it wants to go back into the shadow yard, but because it's still facing backwards, it's probably that kind of logic. Like it needs to, there needs to be a step in between shunting and going back to the yard. Okay, it's forward now. This is a good sign. Train cannot continue. Okay, so there is There's still an issue. So it is facing the correct way. It did switch forward. But M3 is maybe not a goal. So we have M1, M2, M3. I mean, yeah, let's put it on M5 then. Maybe I can resume the route from here. No, route not possible. Okay. So it is facing forward. Like for an M1, this is the right direction. It's okay. We'll start wrapping up here. Otherwise, we can run all the way. I have to debug this a little bit further. Something I'm missing, basically. Direction next. Yeah, that is accurate. Right, we go from left to right. Yeah. Let's put it on both, maybe. See if that makes a difference. No, it does not. Waiting time. It would look very odd, but you never know. I mentioned waiting time before. Might be a factor. M3. And it could be simply the blocks not being configured correctly. Okay, so it skips straight to the end. Okay. So now the train will basically go back with high speed, I have to say. Back into the yard to finish its route, essentially. Well, okay. That's fine. All right. Let's give it one more time. See if something changed. At this point, I'm already like, maybe I should close down the program, give it a fresh start. Just to clear its memory. But yeah, these people using this, they use it all day, no problem. It's a pretty stable program. It's pretty well done. It's Netherlands made, by the way. There used to be a different kind of automation still quite popular in the Netherlands, but the author of that he died a few years ago. So basically, this application has been gone. Yeah, it hasn't been maintained, right? At some point, it just becomes old. Like you need older versions of Windows, maybe, or it just doesn't get new features. Yeah, same thing. Train cannot continue. So iTrain is starting to take over locally, from what I see around me. Yeah, the waiting time doesn't do it. Okay. Yeah, that could be quite a wild goose chase. It's pointing in the right direction. Yeah, well, it's okay. I'm gonna do a quick check on the blocks. See if M2 actually goes to M3. It does indeed, M3. M3 goes to M4. M4 goes to M5. Yeah. Previous direction M3. M3 goes to M2. M2 goes to M1. M1 goes to M5. Yeah, so there is a functional loop. Oh, we did see the other train going correctly. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not too sure, but let's spark up and we'll summarize today. Disable its route. Save. So not entirely successful. I did want to get the westward route working, but we did a lot today. That's important. So just to summarize, right? This is my entire layout. Part of it is automated, so that's largely this part. this part is under automation. Then I added today this part right here. So there's the isolation. It's running from right here to right here. So that's an extra block, which allows trains to back out more. So they can free up the switch. The switch can then be thrown, and train backing out can go forward, and a train coming from this direction can go backward into the yard. So trains in both directions can follow their natural direction, I guess. Then there's a passing siding under automation, and here's where the automation basically is not doing anything. So the main line is in essence being run by automated trains, and then there's this, I think, quite large yard with some classification tracks with a terminal lead. So this is where you can do your manual maneuvers, and then you probably have to request permission in a way for the automation to make your way into this industry right here. And in the future, I maybe want some industry here, maybe even on the shadow yard, maybe here on this removable section. And that, it's a way to add some liveliness to this layout. Part of it is automatic, but you can still manually drive trains if you want. And of course, there's a part that is not under automation. It's not under, you could say, CTC. You have to do a local kind of thing, which is it's like a nice balance in a way. Automation is also complicated, right? Maybe if you watch longer, you can see that it's not that straightforward. It takes a while to set up, to figure it out. So any new scenario is kind of you need to kind of start over. How did it work again? Why does it work the way it works? And for iTrain in particular, how most people would use it, is to either manually route everything. So just, sit at the computer, drag your trains over, and just have fun that way. That's how I see it used a lot, also in, for example, my local club. And the other, extreme, I would say, is to assign stops everywhere. So essentially, these sidings would be a stop. You would create a stop here, anything where a train can stop for a few minutes or a few seconds, whatever, where it has some diverging branches, some options, and then hit the automate button, and that way all trains will randomly start looking for destinations. That's the whole setup with iTrain. That's one very large extreme. Basically, you can step back, watch the trains do random movements, and this works well if your layout has enough stops, enough stations, like at least 3 yards in the station, right? Because you want trains to be able to pass through, have trains wait in 1 or 2 platforms. And I chose something in the middle, which is there are some blocks here, so you can occupy sections. There's a passing siding, which you can use to pass up to 2 or even 3 trains. And then there's this shadow yard to kind of store trains for a little bit. So you don't see the same train every time on the main line. Just, you can switch it around a little bit. And with waiting times, maybe some kind of schedule, because you can schedule things you have a fast clock and everything. You would be able to create some schema or some regular movement, but you don't have to. You can use random waiting times to also do it. But it's essentially programmed. It requires a little bit more work, I would say, a little bit more experimenting, a little bit more trying out. So I would say thanks a lot for watching. I'm going to hand it over to the next one. If you're able, donate, please. And thanks so much for coming along with this crazy experiment. I will keep the Discord updated on my progress. If I manage to get it all running, I probably should be able to get it all running. It will just take some time. And thank you so much. I'm gonna contact our moderator, if he's not already watching, to hijack it. We're trying to do the stream with some people all at once, which brings some technical challenges in a way. Not challenges, but peculiarities. Let's see. take off the screen. This can go back to large. We're going to use this tonight for the decoder installs. If I'm still here on the stream, I'll tell you who's up next. I think it's yes, it's the Wheel Bros streaming a layout. That sounds awesome. Definitely watch that. After that, Dennis is going to do some operations. Looks like on a big layout. Then after that, Sam is going to show or stream from the Willard Library show. After that, I'm going to show you how to install some decoders, particularly ESU in N-scale locomotives. And after that, we'll finish off with Talking Trains live at the workbench by Paul Stam. That sounds awesome. Nice.